Cooking is the transfer of energy from one source to another, altering food's molecular structure, changing its texture, flavor, aroma, and appearance.
First up are our dry heat methods, the process of applying heat either directly by subjecting the food to heat of a flame or indirectly by surrounding the food with heated air or heated fat. These methods are broiling, grilling, roasting, baking, sautéing, pan frying, and deep frying.
Next up, moist heat. Cooking with moist heat is the process of applying heat to food by submerging it directly into a hot liquid or by exposing it to steam. These methods are poaching, simmering, boiling, and steaming.
Lastly, we'll take a look at combination cooking that employs both dry and moist heat cooking techniques. The two principal combination methods are braising and stewing. Broiling uses radiant heat from an overhead source. The food is placed on a preheated metal grate. Radiant heat from overhead cooks the food, while the hot grate brands it with attractive crosshatch marks. Broiling is typically reserved for meats less than 1.5 inch thick, like steaks or pork chops.
While similar to broiling, grilling uses a heat source located beneath the cooking surface. Grilled foods are often identified by crosshatch markings as well. Many people use the terms grilling and barbecuing interchangeably, but they are quite different. Grilling is a basic form of cooking, while barbecue is a low and slow method using indirect heat for a prolonged period of time. Grilling works best with foods that cook more quickly, such as steak or seafood, and barbecue is reserved for tougher meats like ribs or brisket.
Roasting and baking are both processes of surrounding food with dry, heated air in a closed environment. The term roasting applies to meat and poultry, while baking is reserved for fish, fruit, vegetables, starches, breads, and pastry items. Pastries.
Sautéing uses conduction, which transfers heat from a hot sauté pan to food with the aid of a small amount of hot fat. To sauté food properly, heat a sauté pan on the stovetop, then add a small amount of fat to just cover the bottom of the pan. The fat is heated until it begins to smoke. Now the food to be cooked should be as dry as possible, achieved by patting dry when added to the pan to promote browning and prevent excessive spattering. The heat should be adjusted so that the food cooks thoroughly but not unevenly. We use sautéing for vegetables and tender cuts of meat, such as fish or chicken breasts.
Pan frying has attributes of both sautéing and deep frying. This cooking method uses heat transferred by conduction from the pan to the food using a moderate amount of fat. Pan-fried foods are typically coated in breading, which forms a seal that keeps the food moist while preventing the fat from penetrating the food and causing it to become greasy.
Deep frying uses convection, which refers to the transfer of heat to food by a moving heat source, in this case, hot fat. Foods to be deep fried are usually first coated in batter or breading. This process preserves moisture and prevents the food from absorbing excessive quantities of fat. Foods deep fried should be uniform in size and shape.
And now for our moist heat cooking methods. Poaching is often associated with delicately flavored foods that do not require lengthy cooking times to tenderize, such as eggs, fruits, or fish. When poaching, food is placed in a liquid held between 160 to 180 degrees Fahrenheit. The surface of the liquid should only show slight movement, no bubbles. Delicate foods cooked in boiling liquid become stringy and often destroyed. There are two methods of poaching: submersion and shallow. For submerged poaching, the liquid covers the food completely. With shallow poaching, the food is placed in just enough liquid to come approximately halfway up the sides. Shallow poaching combines aspects of poaching and steaming, and the reduced liquid is often used to create the base of an accompanying sauce.
Food is submerged in a liquid held between 185 and 205 degrees Fahrenheit, where the water is in motion but no bubbles break the surface. As with poaching, the liquid used for simmering has a great effect on the food's flavor, so you might choose to use a stock or wine instead of water, depending on your desired result.
Boiling uses convection to transfer heat from a hot liquid to submerged food. The turbulent waters and higher temperatures cook foods more quickly than poaching or simmering. While a lot of people think meats and eggs are boiled, they're actually just simmered. Starches such as pasta and potatoes are among the only types of foods that are truly boiled.
Steaming is often associated with tender, delicately flavored foods, such as fish and vegetables, which do not require lengthy cooking times. Steaming tends to enhance food's natural flavors and helps retain its nutrients.
Braising is our first combination method, and its specialty is large pieces of meat. First, we sear the meat by cooking just the surface at a high temperature until a caramelized crust forms. This process helps build flavor. Then enough liquid is added to immerse half of the meat, continuing to cook at a very low simmer until the meat is fork tender, meaning it only needs a little gentle pressure and not a knife to cut.
Stewing, while similar to braising, is a technique used for cooking small pieces of meat. Stewed foods are prepared with enough liquid to cover them completely and are simmered at a constant temperature until tender. Cooking time for stewing is generally shorter than braising because the items are smaller.
And now it's time to review. We learned that there are 3 kinds of heat when cooking: dry, moist, and a combination of both. Dry heat methods include broiling, grilling, roasting, baking, sautéing, pan frying, and deep frying. While moist methods are poaching, simmering, boiling, and steaming. And let's not forget the combination heat methods of braising and stewing.